Tackle Junkies, what's going on, everyone? Really appreciate you guys and gals for clicking on the video. Pretty cool video planned for you guys today. New partnership here with MONSTERBASS, and we're going to be doing some really cool videos for you guys as well. Not going to be your typical unboxing type video. The plan is for me to get the box each month, go over the baits with you guys, tell you guys how I'd rig them, where I'd fish them, but more importantly, go over rod, reel, and line. That's what I get asked about the most from you guys, and I love to talk gear, so this is very fitting, for me. Another thing I would like from you guys is some feedback on a title for these. I'd like to maybe call them like Rig It Right or something like that. Give me some feedback down below on a title for these videos. And also, when I'm talking about, where and how I would rig and fish these baits, or even the gear, I'd love some feedback on that as well down below in the comments. There's many different ways to rig baits, fish baits, and of course, different gear can be used. We all fish differently. I'd love some feedback down below so we can all watch these videos, read the comments, and learn how to fish these baits even better. All right, knife of the day, Benchmade Bailout. M4 steel, green aluminum scales. Even has a little glass breaker there on the back. Love this knife. It's kind of like a bug out, but on steroids. So, now this is the Z-Man Takeover box. So this box here is loaded with Z-Man baits. And guys, I have a code for you guys for MONSTERBASS. Code TJ81 will save you guys 20% over there. That's good on everything on the website, I believe. Boxes, hats, t-shirts, rods, whatever you want. And that code can be used more than once. So TJ81, 20% off. Let's get it started here with the jackhammer 3/8 of an ounce in Fire Craw. I'm sure everyone's familiar with that bait. Then we have the matching trailer. This is new from Z-Man, the Chatter Spike Fire Craw. Love the straight tail here. I'm not a big fan of a boot tail on my chatterbait. Sometimes that wider, slower action of the boot tail can interfere with the tighter, faster action of the blade. So I do like a straight tail for my trailer, and I just let the blade give the action to the bait. So love this combo right here. A jackhammer, bladed jig chatterbait, that is a great bait to target fish shallow cover, whether that be a grass line, rock bank, lay down, stumps, things like that. I just like to cruise the banks and target fish that cover that I can see. All right, next up we have the Willow Vibe in 3/8 of an ounce. I've used these in the past, really like this bait. These are in pearl here, it's a 2-pack. All right, then we have the trailer to go with them. The Streaks 3.75 in smelt. Great shad imitator here. Basically what you got here, it's kind of like a finesse chatterbait. I guess it reminds me more of a scrounger head. So it's less vibration, less noise, more of a finesse bladed jig. Great for schooling fish, but also great in the same situations as you'd throw the jackhammer, just a bit more of a finesse presentation. All right, next up we have the Hellraiser 5-inch, 5/8 of an ounce in matte black. This is a great bait here to cover water very quickly. It's a straight retrieve type bait. Throw it out, reel it in, and the faster you reel it, the more erratic it can be. So if you want less action, reel it a bit slower. But it kind of looks like a bladed jig on the tail end there. You have the weight in the blade, which allows it to sit tail down, and as you reel it, it just kind of shimmies there on the surface. So great bait here to cover water very quickly. All right, last up here we have the Weedless Power Finesse Shrooms, 1/10 of an ounce in green pumpkin, and then the big TRD and PB and J. Now I'm not much of a finesse guy, but you guys know Big Mike is. And 9 times out of 10 when we're fishing and I'm power fishing and he's throwing that dang little mojo rig, dude's whipping me, right? One of the only times that I've been able to hang with him when he's like truly dialed is when I was throwing the Ned rig, and we got videos on this. But it's not a bait that I truly love to throw. I don't really have a ton of patience, but when you need to get bit, it's definitely a great option. Great over there at the ponds. If you guys have a little small pond to fish, it's something you can just throw out, let it sit, give it a shake, and catch fish. But it's great for the bigger bodies of water as well. Especially these here, having the weed guard, you can throw them around brush, and most of the time get your bait back. But when the bite is tough, never overlook the big TRD. So after looking at the baits in this box, I do believe a video like this is going to be pretty beneficial for everyone, not just the guys that bought this box. So obviously if you bought the box, great, you're going to learn maybe where you can fish these baits, but more importantly, like I said, rod, reel, and line. But let's say you didn't even buy the box. I'm sure most of us have a chatterbait or some Ned heads or something like that, or if you don't have them, you plan to buy them. So if you're in that situation, you can still enjoy this video and figure out what gear you need to toss those baits. Okay, rod, reel, and line. And guys, keep in mind, I am in my tackle room here. I don't have a ton of room to show you guys the entire rod or the actions, but this part of the video will improve once we're back out on the water. But it's like -5 here today, so that won't be for a couple months. So just kind of hang with me till we're back out on the water. Before we jump into the rods, one thing I want to mention, because it will be across the board, at least for me, is rod length. Now, I fish pretty stained to muddy water majority of the time. So when I'm cruising the banks, I'm target fishing. I'm not looking for distance, okay? So my preference is typically a shorter rod because I'm looking for accuracy. So if you're fishing more clear water, you may want a longer rod because you're looking for distance. One other thing you're going to notice throughout these videos is I tend to lean towards more of a softer action rod. This one here is a moderate fast, okay? This one in particular is the Okuma TCS rods. And I got onto these rods years ago, and I just seen myself landing more fish with them just because it had a softer tip. There's just more benefits to a softer action rod. For one, it helps cast the baits better just because the rod loads easier. It also acts like a delay. It allows the fish to get the bait, plus it being softer, you don't feel the fish as quick, so you're not pulling it away. If it was a faster action rod, you'd feel it sooner and pull it away before they got it. So that softer action, again, acts like a delay and allows the fish to get the bait. And another deal is it just helps you fight the fish better, especially with treble hooks. Okay, and we'll get into that on the cranking rod, but overall, a softer action rod has helped me land more fish. So for the jackhammer and the willow vibe, we're actually going to throw both of those on the same rod. And there's a lot of different opinions on the right chatterbait rod, okay? So I'm sure you guys think it's crazy that I would throw both of them on this rod here. This one in particular is a 7-foot, medium-heavy mod fast action. And a lot of guys like a heavy power with a moderate action. Some guys like a glass rod. Again, a lot of opinions on the chatterbait rod. But for me, this is the one that works, okay? When it comes to a rod and pound test, your line and all that, you have to think about the size fish you're targeting, the cover that you're fishing around, and then the size hook that you're using as far as the gauge of wire. At least for me, I'm not around huge fish. We don't have super thick cover. And guys, hooks these days are so sharp, I mean, it doesn't take a ton of force to penetrate the hook through the fish's jaw, right? For me with a chatterbait, a medium heavy mod fast gets the job done. I mean, you already have the momentum of the bait coming towards you as you're reeling it. So when you get hit and you swing on them, again, at least with my experience, I haven't had any issues at all with that hook, you know, penetrating the jaw with a medium heavy mod fast rod. For the reel, I'm a 6-speed guy. I tend to reel too fast the way it is, so a 6-speed helps slow me down, but a 6-speed also has a ton of power. If you got a fish down in the grass and you're trying to horse them out, with a 6-speed, you can dang near just reel them out of there. With an 8-speed, you're going to have to use the rod and kind of horse them out and pick up the slack with the reel. A 6-speed just has more power, and it's my go-to. As far as line goes, this is where it's going to vary. For a jackhammer, I like anywhere from 15 to 20 pound test. And for the willow vibe, I like 12 or 15 pound test. Now keep in mind when you're choosing your line, okay, you need to pay attention to the line diameter as well. I use Seaguar, love Seaguar, great line, and they have a small diameter. So in some cases, I might be tossing 15, and it might be the same size as your 12 or 14. So I can get away with a bigger line or stronger line and still have the same diameter as you. So keep in mind, you have to look at the pound test and the line diameter. All right, next up we have the Hellraiser. We're going to toss that on a cranking rod just because it has treble hooks. A true cranking rod has more of a moderate action to it. So it's even softer than the last rods that we talked about. This one here, Okuma Guide Select 7-foot medium power with a moderate action. So again, a nice soft rod, exactly what you want for treble hook lures. You know, basically like we said about the last rod, it acts like a delay. It helps keep the fish pinned, but overall this helps you fight the fish better. And a great example, if you're fighting a fish on a treble hook lure and the fish jumps out of the water and the rod unloads, when the fish goes back down, the rod has to load back up. But if the tip is too stiff, you're just going to tear out those little treble hooks. So that's why it's key to have a soft action rod when you're dealing with treble hook lures. Okay, reel speed for top water. Typically a 7-speed for me. A couple examples here. Let's just say I have a top water popper or even a walk the dog type bait. I'm working those baits with the rod. The reel's just picking up slack. So I don't have to worry about overworking those baits with the reel. So in that case, I like the 7-speed. With the Hellraiser or even like a buzz bait, something like that, you want to get the bait up on the surface as quick as you can to start working it. Again, in that situation, I like the 7-speed reel. Now, line can be a bit tricky when it comes to topwater. Let's go back to the poppers and the walk the dog type baits. Okay, if your bait is sitting still for any period of time when you're using fluorocarbon, that line is going to start to sink below the surface. It's no longer going to work correctly. So for any baits or topwater baits that are sitting still, you want to use a mono or a braid. Again, stay away from fluorocarbon as it's a sinking line. But a bait like the Hellraiser or even a buzz bait that you're throwing out, getting up on the surface and you're steady reeling, you can get away with using a fluorocarbon line. I usually like a bit bigger diameter fluorocarbon to help it ride on the surface even better. So for me, 15 to 17 pound fluorocarbon or even mono is what I would use as well. Again, anywhere from like 15 to 17 pound test. All right, last up we have the Ned rig. And we're going to go with spinning gear. I'm sure some of you guys are going to go BFS. But we got the spinning rod here. This one is the Okuma Psycho Stick 7'2". It's a medium power, fast action rod. So out of the three here, this one is actually the stiffest. Anytime I'm working the bottom, I do like a stiffer rod as it's a bit more sensitive. For the reel, I like a bit bigger spool. This one here is a 3000 size spool. Depending on brand, it might be a 30 size spool. But again, I like that bit bigger spool just because it gives you less line issues out on the water. As far as the line goes, again, it depends really where you're fishing, the type of cover that you're fishing around, fish that you're targeting. But for the most part, for a Ned rig, I'm probably going to go anywhere from 6 to 10 pound test. And again, keep in mind, I'm using Seagar, which has a pretty small diameter. I know some of you guys probably use 4 pound tests. When I say 10, you're probably like, whoa. But like I said, I'm using a pretty small diameter line, so I feel I can get away with it. Guys, that's gonna wrap it up. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to smash the thumbs up. Love you guys. We will see you guys on the next one.